Two, one, two, one, two. I can boost myself a little bit.
We are live.
We are Leve.
You
Cheers
are
to being Leve.
unsynced, and we are live. I like that. Okay.
Unsynced and unhinged. That should be the name of our live.
Unsynced, and unhinged. In sync.
Because from now on, well, I don't know if I'm going to be. I just was lazy today and don't feel like hooking up the processing for this SM7B. So I'm going through the RE20.
Whatever works.
Does not give me a delay capabilities.
So you're having a problem with the Mika? What's the problem with the Mika?
What's my problem? It was more just a dumb thing.
Okay.
So here's the deal. So as now this is shocking to me that I don't need to do this with the PSA1 because with every other spring-loaded mic arm, this is a process that you have to do anytime you're putting a new mic on it, where you have to rebalance the spring system.
Yeah.
In the case of the Mika arm, it's a gas spring, so you have to rebalance the gas mechanism, because otherwise it'll either go whoop or foo. And
hey man, that was awesome. Do that again.
Rip. Which is basically what happened. So in the case of the SM7, I noticed that the Mika, I was fighting with it a lot. Like I would bring it down and then go, whoop. I'm like, no, stay. So I had to look up in the documentation how to rebalance it. And there's actually, it's so stupid. There's a screw. So can't really show it. I guess I could flip my camera around here. Hang on. So you see it there. So there's the system pole. That's this guy. That guy.
All right.
But the top of the system pole where that little yellow ring is, and that's where it meets the arm, which is obviously where my SM7's on right now, the part that's swiveling.
Yeah.
So where that meets, there's a little plastic sleeve.
Yep.
And it's easy enough to take off. Sit down here, you little son of a bitch. There we go. This is awkward. So anyway, so where it's sitting, you have to, there's a little screw, like underneath.
Oh, that's annoying.
Underneath where it mounts. So in order to adjust it with a screw, it's a flathead, no less. You have to take the arm, unplug it, because the cable's just long enough to reach the desk panel from the arm. Unplug it from its 5-pin XLR happy hole, and then change the screw, stick it, like weasel it back into the hole with this really sensitive plastic nub that it sits in. See if it works, and then maybe adjust it another quarter turn. And so I'd say it was an hour of me sitting here just going back. But now it's great. Now I can pull it down. It stays in place. I can push it up with my pinky, and it stays. Like,
nice.
It's great. I love it.
So I've had my own mic arm problems. I've got the OC White low profiles. I have 2 extra that I wanted to do monitor mounts off the wall with but because they're the low profile first gen, they started doing second gen because people were complaining that they were too chonky. So they just remade the arm completely. Like completely remade the whole low profile arm, including with different specs for the stud that it mounts with.
Oh, that's a pain in the ass.
So now I have to go and buy all new brand new arms if I can't find it's just, I'm
Stupid.
not happy about that. Let's just put it that way.
It's dumb.
Ken says, hello, fellas. Hello, Ken. How you doing?
Hello, Ken.
So I'm now in the process of, our radio station actually has some of these. So I don't know. I'm going to see like if they ever decide to. Otherwise, I've got arms that have no use. I guess I can make my own wall mounts, drill the proper size hole, but then it's wood, and wood's got to hold a monitor. I don't know about that. That's a little awkward. So I'm gonna I put in a few phone calls with OC White to see what they can do for me, but so far it's basically nothing. I'm not gonna do anything.
It's funny you mentioned that. I was looking up because obviously, so I've got the Mika system pole and I think it's the medium-sized arm. All together are like 600 euros.
Yeah,
which is stupid, but
it is so much nicer though. You have to admit, despite all the that's not worth $600, but then you're like,
well, so here's the thing: is
nice.
because I didn't know that you could rebalance it. Obviously, the engineers that had originally installed it with a Sennheiser Mark IV condenser, which is lighter than the than the SM7 never balanced the arm properly. So even when I would use it at work, it would fly all over the place. When I originally brought this baby home, I wasn't actually planning on using it. Like, I was
really?
honestly just gonna either stash it or, heaven forbid, like just toss it, because it used a 5-pin XLR. I'm like,
Oh God.
what the hell am I gonna do with that?
Yeah.
And I managed to find a way to make it work actually pretty well. But then on top of that, it just I'm like, my PSA 1 is just super fluid and works so nice, other than the fact the cabling looks horrible on it, which I have fixed. We will get onto that. But no, and then I found a way to like attach it, and then I think what sold me was the indicator light, even though I have absolutely no practical need to have it.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I just like it, you know. It makes my life happy.
Just so you turned on. Okay, never mind. I was gonna say turned on. Anyways, if you get more of those Mika arms, and you just ship them to me, man.
So what I was gonna say, so I have the system pole, as they call it, and then the arm coming off the top. So the system pole, as the name would suggest, can accommodate many different components of the system. So one of the components that you can get, obviously, is a monitor arm. You can get both the easy height versions and the fixed height.
Nice.
The fixed height version. So I would get an easy height version. So that is like, I think about $445, so 445 euros. I'm like,
Well, no, I've got a contact at Mika. I'm gonna be calling them soon to see, because I would like to do like a full roundup of boom arms. So send me a couple. Let's see what we can do, and do like a boom arms special. To show what you get out of each kind of generation of boom arms. So I'm gonna go get one of those $20 ones, the Neewer.
oh yeah,
from
God, the ones with
Amazon.
the springs on the outside.
Exactly. Then you've got the PSA 1, which is kind of the next level up. I'll probably get a blue as well. Blue and the PSA 1 are kind of hand in hand, from what I can tell.
Honestly, as much as it's cheap, I like the PSA 1.
Yeah.
You know, I bought it again. The only thing initially that irked me about it was the lack of easy cable management. That was the only thing that really irked me, which
I think
is
blue has better cable management. I'm pretty
well,
they're the same
again,
price.
if you're remotely handy with a soldering iron, cable managing in the PSA 1 actually isn't that hard either.
Okay, let's show off. What do you do with the PSA 1?
So I don't know if I can show it. I have to move the
I can
camera
see it.
again.
You can see it from right here.
You can sort of, I can show the end of it. So there we go. So you can see
Yeah.
there's no cable. Before I had these stupid little straps holding a cable to the top of it, which, you know what, was fine. So my initial goal with this was so you can sort of see, I went and made a low profile XLR cable that originally I was going to strap to the top of this, just nice little tiny, super narrow black one. That would, look pretty okay. But then I did it and I saw, it's like, okay, I can still see the straps. It still looks so bloody ugly. But then I sort of looked and I saw, at the base, anyone who has a PSA 1 probably would know this, at the base of where the little cone is that attaches to either the clamp or the grommet mount, there's like a little hinged piece of plastic that flips up, and it looks like it really wants to have a cable inside of it.
It does, doesn't it?
But there's no feasible way. So I said, how the hell? So I came up, after taking the arm off and just examining it for a few seconds, I saw on the top and bottom there's these grommeted holes on the bottom. I'm like, okay, they've clearly designed this with, I assume, the idea that someone would thread a cable through the shaft and then over top of that little wheel, that little trough in the middle, and then down the second shaft. So that's all I did, as I unsoldered the XLR connector at the end here, and I just threaded it through, and it's beautiful.
How big of a wire do you think you can get through there? Do you think you can
get
an actual XLR?
Oh yeah, you could get a regular, before the cable type that I was using here, and this is big honkin' monstrous, proper blue audio cable. This was the cable that I was using before, and that was what I used initially to test it, because I didn't want to go to the trouble of unsoldering the XLR if it wasn't going to work anyway. Because soldering XLRs, I don't have a vise. I have vice.
God,
I have alligator clip, like the vice, the helping hands.
Yeah.
But XLR connectors are way too big for those. So unsoldering XLRs is a pain. Well, not so much unsoldering, because you can do that vertically, but resoldering horizontal,
I know.
pain in the ass.
Well, but by the way, I just got to point out, Ken says the Samson 3-foot arm I got at local music stores. Quite nice for 60 US. Maybe I'll pick up one of those. I want to
get a
do like
Samson.
a boom arm. I didn't know Samson had a boom arm.
I've seen it. I've seen it advertised.
Then Hint of Shrimp says, Dylan in a tank top, didn't know I needed this until right now.
It's warm here. It's
as
like
soon as I saw him,
it's
my
true.
first thing was Suns Out,
That's
Guns
literally his first Suns Out, Guns Out.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, it's warm here. It's like 23 out.
wow.
I was this close to bringing out the air conditioner today because I live in a 9-story building on the 7th story. So when it's sort of warm outside, it's boiling in here. Especially when you're in a room with a ton of rack gear on either side of you.
My window behind me is all washed out. We're all rainy and stuff. We're actually only about 6 hours away car ride, but we have very different weather today.
It's true. Well, usually what I'm getting, like last night we got the rain, and then today you're getting there. So
Yeah.
usually, like I'll get whatever weather you're gonna see, like tomorrow or within the next couple
Thanks
days.
for that, by the way.
No problem.
So I think I'll call Mika, and I'll talk to them. The last time I dealt with Mika or with Yellow Tech, I sent all the stuff back to them, but they have reached out to me again saying, "Hey, we would love to do another. If there's something you want, let us know."
They're a great company. It's just unfortunate that their stuff is so bloody overpriced.
Well, is it though? When you think
I do.
about like
I do think looking at after having been very intimate with this Mika arm over the last few weeks and really getting a chance to take a look at its construction. Yes, there's aluminum. Aluminum is a very nice
but
metal.
think of it this way: if you had that whole setup where you had 2 monitors, 2 mic arms, all on that one post, how overpriced is it?
With
at that
one
point?
hell of a bolt holding that
Well, oh yeah, but and
table.
that's the thing. Like the same thing with OC White. OC White, that like I think their 3 microphone post costs like $1,800 US.
Well, yeah,
it's
it
ridiculous.
depends because so I look at so this was my sort of my benchmark for how to judge them for pricing. So they have a system that attaches to their Mika system called a lit, and I believe it also has its own attachment. It's literally indicator lights. I think I talked about this last week.
Yep.
They're just LEDs, little. They're kind of like what's on the mic arms themselves. They're kind of like these lights, except they're on their own stand. They're bigger and they're on their own standalone little hockey pucks. And they make them in all different colors: white, yellow, red, green, you name it. They're €85
Well, do you know?
for a hockey puck.
Well, do you know why all this stuff costs so much? And
Yes, because businesses do not charge
Right.
what products are worth. They charge
No.
what they know that somebody would be willing to pay for
And
it.
here's the thing: when it comes to broadcast, there's a lot of money. Despite what anyone tells you about no money in radio,
No, there is a ton of money in
they
radio.
drop a radio station's main control is going to be in the hundreds of thousands.
Oh yeah, and even the stuff, and that's all write off. Like when they go
Yeah.
to renovate, they don't liquidate. They just say if somebody wants it, they'll give it. If they can thrift it, they'll thrift it,
Yep.
or they throw
well,
it out.
It's like the shock mount for the RA20. You don't have it, the 309A. It costs $125 US
That's why I don't have it.
because people or radio stations were willing to pay that. And it's like the most ridiculously simple concept ever. It can't cost that much to manufacture, but because radio stations needed the 309A, they had to have
Well,
it.
look, I look at it. I think another great example outside of broadcast is the NVIDIA Quattro series.
Yeah.
Those are basically the exact same card. The only difference is they all have reference coolers on them, and they're run through allegedly more rigorous quality assurance.
Yeah.
That's it. They have the same processors in them that the consumer grade or enthusiast grade cards have. Although the difference being enthusiast grade cards probably have better cooling.
Yeah, by a long shot. Well, they're
Yeah.
also they have different drivers.
So they're still, we think that the 3090 is expensive. Whatever the Quattro variant is of the 3090 is at least $1,500 more expensive. than,
by a long shot.
yeah, like
And-
you're paying some $5 or $6 grand for a Quattro card, and they're
there's
charging that
nothing-
because they know, like these big studios in LA. Like I don't know if you've ever like talked to anybody or been in like a VFX sort of facility, but they have render farms. Like to render a Pixar film, actually, or a film that's like what Pixar does or what Pixar used to do. It takes a lot of power. like
Or a lot of
millions
time.
of dollars of systems and a lot of time. They'll run it for 24 hours. And then they'll have a bank, a rack of like 20 servers, all processing individual components of like they'll time division the frames up, and it's crazy. But they know that these render farms will spend money on Quattros for the alleged reliable. Again, I'm saying alleged not because they don't, not because I'm trying to be a dick, but I've never tested the reliability or the quality, so I can't say personally. So I'm saying allegedly.
By the way, in case you're listening and you're wondering, Dylan's just a little bit off sync today because he tried to do something a little different. That's okay, Dylan. We're gonna forgive that. Did you see? I know I cheated.
It's CleanFeed's fault.
I cheated on you with another live.
I did. I saw
earlier this week.
I feel violated.
The Neat Worker Bee was unboxed. Did you see?
Very, very hilariously, I might add.
I had forgotten about it. When I finished that live, I was like, okay, that's good to go. And then I was like thinking, man, I should do a short this week. So I went back, watched the live, and I'm like, oh, I forgot that I dropped the bloody thing in the middle. And it all landed right in front of me where like it was perfectly fine. But I'm like, well, there you go. That's a perfect short. The Worker Bee, anyone watching, is already hooked up. I've already done the testing on it. I don't want to like this mic, Dylan. Like, I don't want to like it. So bad. I can't even tell you how bad I don't want to like the Worker Bee.
Mm-hmm.
It's painful, actually, when I think about it.
If it sounds good, like, again, all of our gripes that we've talked about are all about the aesthetic. If it works, hey, it works.
Okay,
like,
you can't see this.
Nope.
You can't. I know you can't see this.
Nope.
But one of the biggest issues I had with all Neat mics, and anyone that owns a Neat mic is going to get offended by this, but they put so much into the kind of the cheesiness of the microphone that it makes you wonder why if it's even going to be any good. Like, they send you this little desktop spinner bee. Have you ever seen one of those in the unboxings? No, it's like this little desktop bee that sits and you can spin it. It's like a spinner. I don't know why.
They spend too much money on marketing and branding.
But what this is making me wonder if the mic's going to be total garbage or not. And
because it's like, well, you put all your money there, so what did you put into the actual, the thing that we're talking into?
Like, and that's the thing. So as soon as I saw this, oh man,
Wow.
I got it. There it is. As soon as I saw all this stuff pouring out of the box, I'm like, well, what did they leave for research and development on the mic? The mic only costs $99, man. Like, and then you pack it full of, like, you should have seen the box it came in.
Oh,
like,
God.
Like, it came with that little garbage can looking thing to protect the box. How much was left on the mic?
Yeah, really.
Like,
well, again, it's like, yeah, I don't know. It's
could you
I
package it up for $60?
I kind of put Apple into that pit. It's like, they spend so much money on nice materials for packaging, and then you open up their laptops, and it's like, what the fuck is this?
Joshua says, I hate the way it looks. No kidding. I can't.
No, I am with you, brother. I am with you.
I can't get by the look of. If they didn't have the yellow, I think it would be perfectly fine.
Or if they picked, I don't know, some subtler kind of. But I guess they don't want to be subtle. They obviously want to be extravagant.
Well, it's also like the shock mount is ginormous, and that combined with the microphone, it's like huge. It's in front of your face.
Like, you know what? I'm okay. I'm okay with my pliers having that color scheme. I'm not okay with my microphone having that color scheme.
Well, and you know what I mean? Like, I watched Podcastage's vid on it, and he said, it doesn't matter what it looks like. It's all about the sound. But it does. It does matter what it looks like.
Yeah, it does. It does. It does. I mean, yeah. That someone obviously does not have an understanding of marketing, and the importance of a little thing called optics.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, you look at the RE320 as a great example. They took the body of the RE20 and RE27, painted it black, and dumbed down the electronics and gave probably a different cartridge. And there's a new mic. It's going to rely on all that. And I get the reason for them to try to be as unique as possible. but unique doesn't need to be massive and yellow and black.
Yeah, it's true. Well, it's funny actually. This past week I've done a little bit of a test on my work calls where I will put that mic there,
Yeah.
and then I'll bring this mic here, and I'll ask my coworkers which one they think takes the money cake, and it's this one every single time. It's this one because it's got got that look, it's got the sex appeal, right? It's got all these weird acoustic labyrinth grills on the side.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, this is just this black orifice, and you're like, well, what? I don't know what
Orifice. Ooh.
orifice. Yeah, it's gonna be a big
Josh
hole.
says it's a gimmick and it's got people talking about it and trying it. So I guess to the extent the marketing scheme works, to a degree, and
It works, but I would say, so what's so the mic that you have to review? What was the price point of that?
$99.
Okay, so that's it. They're not so if it was a professional product, you're not going to see that in a studio.
No.
So if you're planning on making $500 on a microphone or like a Neumann price tag on a microphone, you're not going to make it yellow and black.
No.
That said, if you're catering to, it's all about your audience. If you're catering to streamers, if you're catering to like home VO pros, or just somebody that wants a cool, solid mic to do video calls with their coworkers, like, or something, right?
I didn't know you'd think I'd show up on a video call with it. That
No.
said, for the price point.
Yeah, no, for the price point.
Josh
it's
says,
like,
by the way, it's got the phallic sex appeal. It literally looks like you're talking into something. I'm not going to finish that sentence. Joshua can finish it in the chat. Ken says it's as ugly as me naked, which is why I've never watched a review on it. That's graphic. Thank you, Ken.
I've never watched a review on it either.
I don't think I would show up on a video call with it. I think it aesthetically, like I look at the Blue microphones, even the higher end Blue microphones, which are unique in their own right.
Mm-hmm.
They're not ugly, but they're
not flashy. Yeah.
they are
to
a
me,
little flashy.
They're not. That's not flashy. Is not the right word. Tacky. I was looking for the word tacky. They're not tacky.
And that's the thing that really blows me away with the Neat mic. So when I went into this review that's coming out Monday, I promise you I didn't want to like this microphone. Just flat out. I did comparisons with it. I did all the NT2A, the Stellar X2, which I'm using right now, and the P120. And the sad thing is the P120 and it are the exact same price point.
Mm-hmm.
And every time, just on aesthetics alone, I would choose the P120.
100%.
Just on aesthetics alone. So, well, you'll get to find out what it sounds like coming up. Hint of Shrimp says, I still think the yellow could have worked. My issue is how much it looks like a giant P. Needs to be more subtle with everything. I think it would have much. If it was all black and maybe not, like, they didn't need to make the base square. The base being square is, I'll accept that. I can take that. It's the fact that they also put it in that gigantic round shock mount. What the hell?
Yeah, no, that's well. So I can compare that to another purchase that I made in the last little while. So last Friday, I may have mentioned this on last Friday's stream. My old dodgy soldering iron decided to suffer a horrible death.
Oh no.
It has a twist in tip. Like it has a screw in tip at the end of it. It's
that is dodgy.
Screwable tip, yeah. And I guess I've used this soldering iron for like 15, 20 years. And it's not like a soldering station. It's like, your typical tiny little Weller, $30, $40 job.
The Wellers are great. I'm sorry.
They are good. And this was I think it's the SP35L is the model of it. And it's just a little tiny little stick. Plugs right into the wall. There's no display or anything. And so I tried to take the tip out because I wanted to put the conical tip. It's like the chisel tip was on it. I wanted to take that, put the cone tip back in. And I guess it was just so seized up from years of never being taken out of there that it snapped. Like the tip just snapped off. So I said, okay, well, and it's been coming for a while. So I'm looking up, like, soldering irons are one of those weird things where they're either $100 or $5,000. There's no like middle range for a soldering iron. It's kind of annoying. But so I was looking up different tech, and obviously Louis Rosman has his opinions, which I respect. That said, I'm not spending $1,000 on a JBC iron just because it has a direct heat element in the tip. No thanks.
Yeah.
But so I was looking up, there's two models of soldering iron that are sort of at the higher end of like enthusiast grade, but that are still stations, and they can plow out a lot of power.
Yeah.
And one of them is the Weller, I think it's the WSD 1010 or something.
Yep.
And then there's the Heiko FX 888. And both of them are like almost the exact same price range. The Weller's color scheme, you can look this up what I'm talking about. The Weller's color scheme is this nice black and like kind of nice baby blue kind of color.
Yeah.
It's really nice, kind of got a certain lab physique to it. The Heiko is yellow and blue.
Ooh.
And it has it has 2 buttons on it. Like the interface, in my opinion, is atrocious, which all the reviewers that I've seen talk about it, I agree. As far as performance and features, they both perform similarly, with the exception that the Weller has been shown in several instances to have a temperature calibration issue, where the temperature that's being displayed is not the actual temperature. It's like 20 degrees off the tip. But when you're at, but it does have an offset feature. So if you can get a thermal gun or something to test the tip temp with. But so I'm looking at these two things and going, they're virtually identical. The Weller technically is like a hair worse, just a tiny little bit worse. End up getting the Weller.
Yeah.
Not only because I've bought a Weller before and they're good, but also because it just looks less shitty.
How much was it?
This one $160, I think.
That's not bad. I need to. So what I'm doing with the studio over the next little while is I use a workbench to present from. I'm going to be replacing that with a desk. So because when I'm doing the videos, the PSA one kind of shakes with the workbench.
Yes, I have that. Because of the way that this is, my Mika is mounted to the desk, I find when I move it, even though it's not attached to the monitor mount, if I'm trying to squeeze it in a way, the monitor will start kind of shaking as if the whole top of the desk is like.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna get a desk to present from, and I'm gonna take this workbench. I'm gonna put my clamp on my bench clamp. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Okay. No. Thanks, man, for letting me hang out there. Also, I want to get a soldering station and just kind of put it off to the side so I can because there's a couple things I really do want to do. One of them is build your own mic. I want to actually go through and kind of source out all this stuff to actually build your own mic and do a video on that, which means I should have a separate workstation for it. So
I will say this. So finishing on my Weller story. So I guess the review of it, I've used it for like 4 days straight now, and it's a great iron. It's 70 watts, which is like twice as powerful as your plug-in wall jobs usually are. The base station, actually, I should show. It's like right over here.
All right. Well, he goes off and gets his soldering station because that's what this channel's about, is soldering. That's where all soldering all the time.
So the first thing I like about it is it's got your regular IEC cable power input, so you can just use whatever cable you have lying around.
Nice.
That's the front. Looks nice, right? Very simple.
That is nice, actually.
3 buttons, tiny little switch. Yeah. What do you expect? It's got, again, I like this look more than that. So the actual power supply for it is quite heavy. Like, this is a heavy little box.
I can imagine. They don't want that shit falling over.
And like this part, the actual station that it comes with, which I love this. Like, people hate these springy things. I actually don't mind it as long as you're not a drunk idiot and you don't go like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you stick it. But this is heavy, which you expect, because again, this you do not want.
Okay, I got 2 seconds really quick. By the way, Ken says you sound better on the RE20 than the SM7B and thinks it's sacrilege. Not so. The RE20 it's a beast of a mic.
That said, I should at some point, I would try to do it today, but there's some variables that I can't control at the moment. I should try just literally like bring this mic down, unplug this cable, plug it in here, and see, like, because the SM7 goes through a completely different processing chain from like the RE20 right now. The SM7 goes through a bunch of Pro Tools stuff. The RE20, it's all analog. The RE20 is going into my Mackie, through a 3-band EQ, then into a DBX 166XL, out of there, and then basically into the converter.
And that's what a lot of people don't understand about this. Like, when people are doing reviews, it should just be straight in, and that is the sound. So when you're talking through that, I've got my Stellar X2 going straight in. I don't have anything in the way. Dylan has quite a bit going through. So
we'll see. So right now, in this case, this is a much simpler signal chain. So there's, again, 3-band EQ. There's a gate, as you can hear. If I turn the gate off, you'll hear a ton of room noise. There we go. There's the gate off.
Yeah.
And a compressor, and that's it basically. There's one layer of compression, and there technically is a gate, but it doesn't really care unless I get stupid loud, which I don't, so that's fine. But so if I were to turn all these off, and you would just hear the RE20 by itself without anything on it, it would sound wildly different than what you're hearing right now.
Big time. Also, Ken says, stop boozing before the stream, Aiden. I am actually sober, just exhausted. Fridays are rough for me because, I had a bad week of sleep. And whenever you hit
that's
Friday,
my every week, man.
Yeah, you wake up Friday at 5 o'clock and finish the show. I tried to get a nap in today. It didn't work. I'm drunk on stupid lack of sleep, all that stuff.
See, I'm a little bit of a sicko in that, I mean, for a lot of reasons, but mainly that I actually like that feeling. Like, I like the feeling of being so tired that you're just stoned off like an adenosine overdose.
If I don't have things to do and I don't have to put cognitive thought together, yeah. Hint of Shrimp also says, I just spilled curry ramen all over the F over me in my bed. Okay,
well, your clothes you can deal with. The bed, have fun.
Yeah. Moment of silence for Hint of Shrimp. I hope you like the smell of curry ramen because you're sleeping with it for a while. DJ Kuda says the RE20 naturally has a muffled sound. Actually, most broadcast mics in around that price range sound rather muffled, especially the dynamics. You need an EQ. You need compression. I can kind of hear you. I think you're going through the SM7.
No,
there you are.
I'm back. So this is the RE20 with nothing. Like, this is preamp. No, it's not going anywhere. Preamp and then pretty much straight into converter. This is it. Just au naturel, just nude as hell. Nude as fuck.
Nude as hell. It's
I keep seeing this, and I reach over to do something, and instinctively I'm like, that's a soldering iron. My hand, and I'm like, it's not plugged in. Why am I caring? Like, it's.
Thank you for the clip of you playing with the soldering iron up against your forehead. That is how to use a soldering
iron. That is a real waiting to happen.
So, what I named this stream, the Zoom PodTrack P8. I'm still waiting on it. I see people on social media unboxing theirs and saying,
like,
"Woo,
right now,"
finally
and
came.
you're like, "Where's mine?"
They are not for sale in Canada, for one. They're almost impossible to find in the U.S. B&H, I think, every once in a while. Basically, they've turned into the Sound Guys graphics card. You cannot get a P8. The P4 is really cool, DJ Kuda. Had one, loved it. It's definitely not a step up for me, but I'm waiting on the P8 because I want the P8. I am getting a second computer for doing other stuff. And I would like to have the second interface for that. Whether or not I have to send it back to them or not, that's beside the point. But they still, and I talked to my contact at Zoom, and he said, yeah, there's such a semiconductor shortage that everything that has been impacting cars, toasters, in fact, toasters are on the list of semiconductor things that are being delayed. Coffee pots. All of this stuff, all the way up to graphics cards, these are all being left in the dust because when COVID hit, what happened was all of the semiconductor developers figured that they weren't going to need to sell any stock, so they brought their output down, I think it was 40%. And then all of a sudden everybody was like, hey, I need a computer because we're working from home.
Oh, God.
And
just supply and demand problem.
Well, and then it turned into half of their staff laid off due to COVID, supply and demand. Now we need to meet it. So there is a bunch of issues with supply and demand for anything that has a semiconductor in it, which sadly includes the PodTrack P8. I am checking with him mid-April, and we should have some news on that actually coming in.
Well, it's like how long have we waited for NVIDIA to be? Yeah, like
I was talking to some guys at one of the suppliers here in Canada, Canada Computers, and they were saying that graphics cards, they will get 2 to 3 a week.
Yeah, well, and back order alone, like even if you put an order now and they get some, you're going to be like behind 400 other people.
They don't actually back order anymore. They're not doing any back orders. Even Best Buy, As soon as they come
It's
in,
just first come, first
Yep.
serve. That's it.
they hit the shelf and gone. And it's almost like poof.
So that said, yeah, if you want one, you could pretty much going to be in the store like once a week.
DJ says, once I got the Roadcaster, everything changed. Now I have gear acquisition syndrome. But nothing really
Oh
comes
man,
close to
for
it.
me it's guitar acquisition syndrome, but same gas.
Yeah, I know. But I'm expanding. The guitars are going to come. Gear
Again,
acquisition syndrome is bad.
when I got this desk and I had 28 racks or 56 rack spaces, I thought that was going to be more than enough. I thought I was going to be using blank plates all over the place. Nope.
No.
I am already out of space.
How much have you spent?
Like when? Like now or like recently?
Yeah, just recently.
None.
None? Oh, okay.
None.
Everything just filled up, eh?
Well, it's all stuff that I had on like a makeshift rack, or like a 20 rack that was sort of. But when everything's sort of bits and pieces here, some there, you don't really notice how much it is. And then when you throw everything together, like, and then you show somebody a picture, like, it looks like a spaceship. It's like, yeah, because everything's like beside each other.
Yeah.
Which, I mean,
DJ Kuda says the Go XLR is okay. Should I review the Go XLR?
what the hell is a Go XLR?
It's a streaming board. So I think it's a 4-channel streaming board.
Let me look this up.
Yeah, go look at the Go XLR. I've considered it. Now, I'm in a situation where I want to change my live setup, and I actually was talking about this with the Neat Worker Bee unboxing, is I'm running off a webcam. Now, there's another problem I have, and that is I'm only spending money on YouTube that I make on YouTube. I'm not...
Yeah. No, that's not a problem. That's actually that's a good thing to do.
That way I'm not going broke trying to prop up a YouTube channel that's growing, but not quite as fast as I want it to.
Yeah, or you're dropping coin, but not in the place that is going to bring revenue.
So my ideal live stream setup has 2 cameras, a main camera, which I'm looking at the Sony A7C, and an overhead camera, which I'll probably keep my Canon T7i for the overhead, and then a ATEM Mini, the camera switcher you can buy.
Mm-hmm.
That's in time. Like I don't have
I was
the
going to
money
say
for it.
that's like you can fall down the streaming rabbit hole.
Well, but I want to get it set up so I can actually do live streams of things like unboxings, and instead of like one set camera where I'm holding stuff up to the camera like this, I can have an overhead camera. I want to do computer builds where you can have an overhead of the computer while you're building it. All that stuff.
Yeah, that's definitely ideal. Yeah.
I'm getting behind on all the conversation. Have you seen the Go XLR Mini?
I'm looking at it right now. It's
What do you think?
It's so there's the mini. Yeah, okay, there's the mini.
It's basically like a...
It looks sexy. I mean, I like how it looks.
It's cute. I don't do... Like, I'm not a game streamer. I would love to get into game streaming.
I think thinking about it from the game streamer's point of view, which obviously game streamers don't want to fuck about with buttons and stuff over here. They want to focus on the gaming and the talking, and So I think this looks like, I mean, it looks nice. So if you've got it in the corner and you're on a stream camera, like if you've got your little Razer camera or whatever set up and you're doing that, then it looks great. It fits the aesthetic of RGB blah blah blah. But at the same time, it's not going to be high maintenance. It looks like just to set it up and go.
If it had an HDMI switcher on it to be able to switch between cameras, that would be awesome, but it doesn't. That's why the ATEM Mini, that's a Blackmagic design one for an HDMI switcher. That's probably going to be what I get. Okay, let's hit up some of these messages before I get way behind. DJ Kuda, I've been splurging on guitar pedals. I got the Shallow Water, the Lo-Fi Junkie.
There's another rabbit hole.
And the Zoya comes today. I have a hologram microcosm coming soon. I've been so out of the loop for guitar pedals. All of those sound like Greek to me. Then Hintershrimp says, can y'all red pill me on Behringer? All I know is they rip off more established brands. Apparently they tried to sue someone for explaining this fact.
It's fact.
It's fact. Behringer, I mean, just look at the XM series of microphones. They're all based on the SM58.
Yeah. Now, that said, Behringer most of their product line is just that, is ripoffs of it. Like I've got 2 monitors here, which granted, they're actually decent monitors. The old, I don't think they make them anymore, but the if somebody wants to look them up, they're Behringer B2031, like 2031As.
Oh yeah.
And they're not my mains. They're like a B pair, but they're actually okay. But they are a ripoff of I forget the make that they're, but you can tell just even design wise, like how they look. The ports are in the same place.
Aren't
like
they
there's
Yorkvilles?
They might be a knockoff of Yorkvilles, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is like, really, of all the companies you could knock off, you're gonna knock off Yorkville? Like knock off Barefoot or something.
They don't try to swing for the fences with that. They're not trying to knock off like a $2,000 anything.
No. So that said, Behringer does have a professional line. They call everything their professional line.
Yeah.
But something like the X32, which they've partnered up with Midas, and I said this, I forget sometime this week someone was talking to me about that. I said the X32 is the one piece of Behringer equipment that I would actually not put duct tape over the name.
Even
one
if you
piece of
duct
gear.
tape the name, you can still tell it's a Behringer.
No. That said, the X32, I don't know, Aiden, if you've ever used one or seen one in person. They're built better than a Mackie. Those things are
really?
built like a tank. Solid steel case. They're all digital mixers, flying faders. They've got built-in 32 in, 32 out audio interfaces. They have like, it's crazy. They've, I've used them both in a studio context and a live context, and they are armed to the teeth. And their preamps are great because their preamps aren't Behringer pre's. They're Midas pre's, and Midas is professional quality. That said, so the X32, and then they have so you can hook up, the X32 has 32 ports on the back of it, but if you don't want to use those, you can actually plug in their S16 rack mount snakehead, which sends potentially 32 channels either way over Cat6 cable.
Oh, wow.
It's a digital snakehead, so you can plug in. Now I've got some audio over Ethernet AES67 stuff in the studio here, but nothing. But again, the X32 is $3,200.
Yeah.
So it comes with a price tag. But if anyone is looking for, if you've got $5K to spend on, like, for some reason on a big studio setup, and you want an awesome routing centerpiece that's going to have good onboard processing, good compression, good EQ, good routing options, X32, 100%.
Yeah, just don't get the Q502 or the 802 or those tiny.
I don't even know what those are,
mixers.
but they sound gross.
They're the entry level mixers.
Or are they the Xenix?
Yeah,
the little white knobs.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, no, the Xenix. The Xenix ones. I have a little one that's just sitting there basically as a summing mixer in my my like music listening setup back there, and it's okay. The only thing that makes me really nervous about it is the fact that it has a proprietary power supply.
Yeah.
So it's got one of those stupid, like, it's like, it's not a barrel jack, it's not an IEC power cable, it's its own little 7-pin little power connector. So if that thing dies, you're screwed.
Yeah. No,
especially once it's discontinued.
Outside of the X32, which I don't think I'm ever going to review, maybe one day, you never know.
No. Well,
I will not tell anyone to buy a Behringer.
You would have a hard time reviewing the X32 because in the pro engineering circuit, it is a very well-established product. Like, at this point, Behringer is not looking for promotional opportunities.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Like, unless I buy one, it's not going to happen. But I also don't have the setup for it. I don't have the reason for it. I overdo it with an audiophile studio.
That said, at some point, if you're looking for a board, it's a great... in your case, not the full X32 because it's a little sizable. It doesn't have 32 channels. It's got 16 faders, and then they're bankable, so you can change to... But you can get the X32 Compact, which has 4 banks of 8 faders instead of 2 banks of 16, which for live mixing is garbage, obviously. But in a studio context where you're not messing with the faders much anyway, it actually is... And it has all the other functionality. Same 32 in, 32 out. It's just physically smaller. Oops.
Hinter Shrimp says, I have the UMC 22 and it's not terrible, though I don't really have much to compare it to. The knobs are a little wonky, but the body is solid, heavy metal. It's true. Like, that's the one thing you can say about most of what Behringer does is, well, it's not terrible.
It works.
It works. It fills a gap on the low end of what you're doing. And as far as I'm concerned, the most important part of your studio is your interface.
I would argue that the most important, and I'm gonna pull a CEO smooth
Okay.
talker line here. I think the most important part of your studio is you.
Oh, come on. Shut up.
No, it's true though. If you're gonna invest money, I think it's good to like invest money in what in engineering we would say are your endpoints. So your microphones, your speakers. Get to know your speakers. Get to know your microphones. Don't spend money on processors. Most of that shit you can do in post anyway.
Yep.
Having a little interface, like I'm looking at this UMC 22, looks fine. Looks like it does everything that the average, producer, arranger, writer would need it to do. So, obviously my setup is a little bit bloated by comparison at this point. But
Yeah, you're the type of guy that does the gear doesn't matter video. You're sitting behind
yeah, and then show you my
Yeah.
Well, it's actually funny. I had, for engineering reasons, I had to go through this. I think it was yesterday. No, it was on the weekend. What the hell am I talking about? Now I'm getting tired. And I had to do up a wiring plot for how everything is connected here right now, in like a design software. And I'm like, I just pulled it up and I'm looking at it, and I get a headache just looking at all the blocks and the little lines. And
Bang's Naughty Bits joins us and says the UMC 22 is 16-bit. I didn't even know it was a 16-bit.
Most audio gets dithered down to 16-bit anyway.
Yeah, there is especially at that price point.
I mean, 24 is the standard. I'll give
not
Bangs
mixing
that.
an album with the UMC 22.
No, I wouldn't anyway.
That said, I mean, there are better low-end cheap interfaces. I would totally agree with that. And also maybe save up a little bit of your lunch money and go a little higher.
Like I would get honestly the Steinberg interfaces.
They are actually not bad.
They're good. They're actually good. I know a couple. I don't have one, but I have a lot of respect for Steinberg, even though they're in bed with Yamaha now, which I have mixed emotions about that. But
My son had the UR12, and it was for what he used it for, it was bloody overkill.
All right, the UR12, the UR12, the UR22.
Yep.
Both are great. Both come with Cubase, which is awesome. It's a trimmed down version of Cubase. Obviously, I think Cubase AI is the version that comes with, but the Cubase is a great software. I would argue, Cubase is one of the top 3, best DAWs to look at for getting into production and stuff. So
UR22 and UR22C, yeah, they're a bit noisy.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to use one directly with an SM7 unless you had some kind of mic activator.
He had no issues with it whatsoever for what he was doing, and let me point that out. Once again, dude was not
mixing an album.
No, he wasn't mixing an album. He was streaming, and it was perfect for that. And he wasn't using a dynamic mic for it, which really helped, so he didn't have to gain up to 9.
The only thing, like looking at the UR22, which is the bigger version of the UR12, I think the only difference is one has one mic pre, the other one has 2 mic pre's.
Yeah.
The only thing that irks me, again, coming back to the whole aesthetics, going full circle, it kind of looks like somebody puked a bunch of knobs on a faceplate.
Yeah, no.
Like, I'm not a fan of how it looks.
I also, and I kind of went off on this about the bloody, that style of interface. Everything's in the front. It's usually sitting on a desk. And for most people who aren't used to using an interface, having a top up where, like with the one that I did, the review I did on the, oh man, my mind just went, this is the problem with Fridays. The
Gotta write it down.
Oh man, this is gonna kill me all day today. I did the review on the M Audio Air. Mm-hmm. I like M Audio's styling when it comes to everything on top because you're not like bending down to see. The knobs aren't small. The indicator isn't a ring light.
Yeah. I hate those. I hate those, especially if you're off at an angle and you can't see the other side of the ring light because it's obstructed by the fucking post.
Bang's Naughty Bits, since you're in on this, what would you say is the perfect entry-level interface for someone? I've always gone
the word perfect with about 6 asterisks beside it.
I've always told people to go Scarlett. Solo.
I like the Scarlett. I think there's lots of people that would say that it's overrated, but that's only because people talk about it a lot because it works. I mean, I've recommended people buy Scarletts. They've bought them and they love them, and they're in the audio business.
Yeah,
My boss bought one and he loves it.
The P4 as an interface does have a few challenges. 16-bit is one of them. The other stuff I would say for the P4 is the fact that it's literally just a podcast interface. And 16-bit is fine if you're doing a podcast. You don't need anything above 16-bit because everything's being mixed down to 192 or 96, whatever it is.
Okay, when you said 192, I thought you were talking about everything's being mixed down to 192 kilohertz. I'm like, what are you recording?
Kilobytes per second.
Kilobit, yeah.
Yeah, Scarlett 2i2 or PreSonus USB. PreSonus, that 96, that stupid PreSonus. I've got a bad taste in my mouth for PreSonus since the board issue.
Yep, I've got a bad taste in my mouth for PreSonus stuff too. Everything, there's a few manufacturers, and this is empirical evidence, not opinion, so not slander. But every product that I've had from PreSonus, being one of these companies, has had a problem with it eventually. And when I say eventually, I mean within 12 months of purchase, which is not, that shouldn't happen.
No. And
PreSonus is one.
16 months.
ART is the other one.
Yeah.
Both ART and PreSonus stuff, I would not recommend to purchase only because every single product I've bought, and in the case of PreSonus, I've only purchased 3 things from that company. One of which is a lower end product, another of which is, in the $1,000 range.
Yeah.
And even that product is still, it's got like the ladder LEDs are just on cocaine all the time now.
Yeah. Okay. So really quick here. Bangs. Yeah. For podcasts, whenever I tell people to get an interface, I don't normally side with the podcast end of things, whether it be the Rodecaster or whatever. I usually go for an interface that has multiple use cases, because
like a proper interface.
Yeah. He does point out the M Audio M-Track Solo is better than the Behringer. I have not had a chance to get hands-on with the Solo or the Duo. I
wouldn't doubt it. M Audio is a great company.
One of these days, I'm going to snag a couple of them and just kind of figure out the differences between the two of them. The other thing is a Poise says, decision time, do you recommend a DBX 286S into an SSL2 or the Rodecaster Pro for live podcasting with some processing? Thanks to both. Whoo! Live stream. I can't hear you, Dylan. Can't hear you.
I was just saying whoa repeatedly.
Yeah, I saw whoa. Okay,
whoa,
so
man.
DBX 286 into the SSL2. SSL2 is a fantastic interface.
Yeah, I was going to say, as soon as you throw, again, I am a huge supporter of SSL. I have several of their products here. And they're up there with they're up there with API. They're up there with Neve. SSL is one of the greats. The SSL2 is obviously a very tiny little feller. But, so originally, if you'd asked me this back in 2010,
there was no Rodecaster Pro back then, man.
I would have told you no, but I mean, with regards to SSL,
I
would have probably told you to use, because SSL at that point in my mind was not known for, they're an analog company. They make analog boards. Their analog boards are legendary. That's it. That's what they do. But now SSL I have SSL converters. You're not hearing them right now because Windows is stupid, but, they are great. I use them for mixing. I use them for mastering. I use them for tracking. So on the digital side, SSL also has started to excel. They're not up there with the big, giants like Apogee, that's digital. That's what they do. Or what the hell's that other company? Lynx.
Yeah.
But that said, SSL can still make a really nice. They make good mic preamps, decent mic preamps anyway. They make good processors, which obviously the SSL2 doesn't have any of that, so that's fine. And they make good converters, and their power supplies are solid. So I would get the SSL2 and the DBX. What was the DBX?
So here's the problem I have with the DBX. DBX 286S.
86.
One is I don't like inline processing.
You have to be careful.
You have to be very careful.
You have to be careful because remember, you can't uncook bacon.
Yes, but I do like what the Rodecaster Pro brings to the table for inline. They have some really nice sounding effects on the board, but you can also run all that stuff inline through a DAW.
You can, but for live streaming, you can't.
Oh,
So if you're
that's
planning
right,
on
yeah.
if you're planning on doing any kind of live work, plus I
I
think you
always
will
get
find
trapped on that. So I would say Rodecaster, but then I hate the Rodecaster. I guess unless you're not worried about live stream, or you're not worried about multi-track during a live stream. So the Rodecaster Pro, as long as you have no other use case for that interface,
I think
no other
so.
use case.
So I would suggest the SSL 2 with the DBX as an engineer, because I think you'll find more reliability from that setup personally. But I would say this with this very important come to Jesus caveat. On the DBX,
Caveat.
on the DBX, don't use the gate at all. No gate. Bad
No.
gate. No. Use the compressor very sparingly. Pay attention to those gain reduction lights. Make sure that you're not going over like 5 dB. That should be the most, because again, can't uncook bacon. Don't use the limiter. I'm going to say.
So you're buying you're just buying a TBS for.
I would say if you're doing a live stream, use all of those things. But
Yeah,
if you're
yeah.
recording something,
Yeah.
turn and remember, again, it's part of your I think the nice thing about the DBX is, unlike using digital processing, and this isn't just a knock at the Rodecaster, this problem is with the Behringer, anything digital where you've got to bounce through menus and stuff to get to
Yeah.
settings. The DBX, your settings are all right there. All your indicators are right beside you
It's
all
not
the time.
as easy to set up for somebody that has no experience setting up a compressor, setting up.
True,
like-
but I'm looking at the DBX, and I've seen this model around, and it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like it's got
Yeah, the
less than 10
Rodecaster
knobs.
Pro, you can be a drooler and you can still set it up. Like it's actually, and it sounds damn good. And like I would have to agree. The Rodecaster Pro has a stereo out. You have to put the third party plugins, third party drivers if you want multi-track, but you don't need that for live streaming. So if you're doing live streaming and that's it, the Rodecaster Pro is a great option. The SSL2, I would say, if you're doing
we're both giving elevator pitches on the different
well, no, but I
options.
would say the SSL2 is your go-to if you're doing anything else. Like if you are plugging anything else except a podcast mic in, or live streaming, or doing a simple podcast that doesn't require any kind of multi-track, unless you have a Mac, obviously, because Mac changes everything. I would go Rodecaster, unless once again SSL does everything.
I would say also an important thing to factor in is, yes, as Aiden very generously pointed out, for someone who has never or who doesn't necessarily at the moment have a very massive understanding of dynamics processing, or even EQ processing for that matter. The DBX has got a more substantial learning curve to it, as this is an analog unit. It's got analog behavior. It's got analog workflow to it. That said, if at some point, if your aspiration is to grow as an engineer, this will be an invaluable learning opportunity to get something like a DBX 286. Because in the real world, like if you go into a recording studio and you're planning on doing stuff in a record, they don't got a Rodecaster.
No,
They've got racks of stuff that looks just like that.
the Rodecaster Pro is a one use.
Yeah.
unit.
If your goal is not to get into engineering and your goal is to be a content creator and just crank shit out and not have to worry about anything, Rodecaster, 100% Rodecaster, without a question.
I honestly say, like, I'll get my hands on a Go XLR. From what I know from a lot of people who stream, the Go XLR is a great for streaming specifically. I'm guessing it's video streaming rather than audio streaming. I'm taking a wild guess there. Streaming podcast, I guess, could be a thing, maybe. Anyways, Bangs is handling a lot of the heavy lifting also in chat, by the way, right now. He says you will need a slight gate. And this is the problem with the DBX. When you tell somebody to put a slight gate on it, and that's setting a gate isn't something that somebody's like, okay, I'm just going to buy a microphone and get
just
a DBX
a little
gate.
tip. A little tip for anybody who's setting a gate is some really good things to check are your fricatives. Fricatives so a fricative in the phonetic world, a fricative is your H's, your F's, anything that's like a plosive but like a sustained sort of air flow.
Yeah.
Right? As an example. And you'll find that a gate, like if I'm going through a gate right now, if I bring this up too high and I say a word like help, like let's try this. I'm going to crank this up here and I'm going to try saying help. Help, 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 help. You can hear that H at the beginning is being chopped off a little bit, whereas if I dial this down, help, 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 it's a little bit better. So I'd say words like that, help, falafel, and,
that
any of
comes
these
up
words,
a lot. That comes falafel comes up all the time.
But no, fricatives are, generally the first thing. Like if you test a word like apple, 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 like gates do well even if you really crank it up. Apple, apple, because it's abrupt. So a word like help has that little ramp in help, right? Help. So I know we're getting really deep down this, but I will agree with Aiden that setting a gate is you don't want to overdo it because you don't want to overdo it and you don't want to underdo it. You want something that's going to cut out your background noise and nothing else.
And I don't know how many times I've gotten calls from people. And actually, this is one of the things I wanted to talk about. We don't have a lot of time, but there was a YouTuber called Sound Speeds, I think it is, who actually kind of lost it in a video, got angry because people kept messaging him to fix their audio. And then when he had to turn around and say, okay, well, it's going to be really expensive and I might not be able to fix it, they would get mad at him. When Dylan says you can't uncook bacon, that means that if you screw your audio because of a bad gate, bad compression, any of that stuff, you're going to come out of it with unusable audio that can't be fixed, even by some of the best tech wizards.
Yeah, look at it this way. I do that for a living, and I can say that as much as on a technical level, gates and compressors are the opposite. One expands the dynamic range of your audio, one compresses it, but both of them have one very important thing in common, is that when you implement either one of those in any amount, you are losing some amount of information.
Yep. Well,
it's information that's gone. You can't get that back. Yeah. If you cut out too much information, or if your dynamic information gets squeezed down, you can't undo that. I mean, some people have tried, weird, stupid shit like I overcompressed my signal, so I'll just put an expander on it, and that'll expand it again. It's like, no, that's not what an expander's for, you dolt.
Yeah.
But
all right. So just so you know, my wife has told me she needs help rolling a burrito. So
you can't uncook a burrito, Aiden.
Yeah, you can unroll a burrito.
But not if you tug it in.
So just before I go, Bangs Naughty Bit says, I have two gates on my gate. One is a slight gate with a high-ish threshold that touches speech a little, and a strong gate after very strong but low threshold. Engineer talk versus practical use case at some point get good enough and create content. Yeah, I've never run with any gates. I always...
Well, you don't have any. I usually say, like right now, for example, on your stream, the only time you need a gate is when you add compression. Like right now, in your case, I can't really hear any background noise. If you went to go and compress it,
mic'd up condenser microphone, I don't need a gate because I have a decent workspace to talk into a mic with. So that's the other option.
You're not compressed. You're not compressed.
No, I'm actually straight into an interface. So maybe it's the environment you want to change. So maybe you don't need a gate or compression. Anyways, that's that. I'm going to go roll some burritos. Thank you.
And that's not a euphemism.
That might actually be a euphemism. It's Friday and I'm really tired and I have no idea what the wife meant by that. So who knows? Anyways, have yourselves a good weekend, guys. New video coming out Monday. Cheers and thanks for watching.
Ciao.